welcome to another episode of the Chronicles of Mister. I'm Mr. Pierre, and I'm so glad to be joined by Dr. J, aka I'm going to say Mrs. Jordan.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. Or how do the kiddos refer to you, or your students refer to you?
Generally, either Dr. Henley or Dr. H.
Dr. Henley. Okay.
And then some of my kids who I taught before I finished the doctorate will just go, Miss Henley, because that's the thing.
Got it. Okay, so full transparency, because I only follow you on the interwebs and see your TikToks, you refer to as Dr. J there. That's why.
Yeah.
That was in my mind. Good. All good. Awesome. So if I could start off by asking, how did you get into education?
Yeah, I had really great teachers. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, and I was there my whole life up until I moved to Georgia for graduate school. And JPS, the public school there, Jackson Public Schools, it's a district that's mostly Black. And up until high school, almost all of my teachers were Black teachers. And I think that, like, having been an adult now and talking to people who went to schools with very different experiences, like, I didn't realize it then, but now I'm like, I think that probably had a huge impact because they really poured into us and supported us. And even when I got to high school and I started having fewer Black teachers, I still had teachers that really, really poured into us, that went out of their way to support us. If we had a whim that we wanted to follow, they were like, sure, let's do it. And then now as a teacher, I realized like exactly how much time and effort they were sacrificing on our behalf. But yeah, it was like that combined with, I have 2 younger siblings, so I had to watch them sometimes. I used to help my little brother out with schoolwork. I'm a church kid. My dad's a preacher. And so when the church was first getting started, a lot of times, you do everything when you're the pastor's family. So I would watch the nursery, do different things like that. So, and I helped with like summer camps, even before I was out of high school. And I always just enjoyed it a lot.
That's awesome. I was one of those persons that you mentioned that didn't have many Black teachers growing up. I had a Black teacher in elementary school who was the music teacher. And I don't think it was until maybe college again that I had a Black teacher that taught a core subject, and that wasn't like, and no shade to PE or anything, or the school supervisor or whatnot, but it wasn't until then that I got it and recognized just what you mentioned about that pouring into it, like, oh, this person cares more about me rather than just necessarily only the subject that they're teaching about.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how many years has it been that you've been teaching?
This is my 6th year in the classroom. Okay. I taught for 3 years, and then I went to grad school full time for 4. And then as I finished my last year, I was back in the classroom, and this is my 3rd year back. So yeah, this is year 6.
Awesome. Congrats. We know that a lot of folks are choosing to leave the profession because it's not an easy one. Like you mentioned, now that you are a teacher, recognizing how much and what it takes to be an effective teacher and that pouring into, what's kept you in the field? What's kept you in the classroom?
I think it's like the thing that everybody always says, it's the kids, it's students. Very few people leave because of kids. Like you leave because of structures, you leave because of admin, you leave because of funding and support. You don't leave because the kids are always great. Like even when they're having a bad day, like that's a moment. But over the scope of teaching, the kids are great. I really enjoy getting to know students. I enjoy working with students. And this will sound a little counterintuitive to what a lot of people talk when they talk about teaching, but I really enjoy the freedom and curiosity of teaching. And I've been lucky enough to work in schools where I had a little bit more flexibility with my classroom practice than I know a lot of other teachers have. And so because of that, like I'm controlling what happens in my classroom on a day-to-day basis. Like I have these curricular standards I have to meet, but the actual nitty-gritty of the classroom is up to me. And I really enjoy that freedom. I really enjoy the opportunity to like sort of follow what my students and I are curious about. And like I learn a ton from them every day, and I'm a huge nerd. And so
Same.
it's just like, yeah, they come in, they tell you, like a kid told me about we were talking about osmosis because I teach biology, and we were talking about that, and we had used the mummies as an example of like cultural knowledge of osmosis in science in our class as a biology team. And a student was like, "Oh, have you heard about the mellified man?" And like how they were mummifying a person in honey. And I was like, "That's so cool." And that's something I probably never would have stumbled on my own. Right. Like, so yeah, these kids are they're great.
That's awesome. And I love when kids are able to make those connections of what they learn in the classroom to their other subjects or whatever they're interested in, and then bring it to you. And when they share with you, it's like, whoa, that you're making this impact on them. So that's awesome. Cool. You said that this is year 6, had that 4-year gap in the middle of you earning your graduate degree. Like, what do you know now that you wish you knew a bit sooner?
That you can't outwork the system.
Talk on it. Speak on it.
Like, like the job is one where your to-do list does not end. Like there is never a point where you're done. And I wish I had realized that sooner, because those first years I was stressed. I was losing sleep. Trying to meet all of these things that were unmeetable. That, and like I can say you can't outwork a broken system. And so those first couple of years I spent money trying to like get labs and different things I could do in my classroom, because the school I was at, I didn't necessarily have funds to purchase things with. I maxed out a credit card. Like, and looking like, I wish I would have realized that like that's not on me. I'm an individual within the system. I can do what I can do within this system to make a difference for the kids sitting in front of me. But it's not on me to spend my money trying to figure out how to give them this specific experience. Let me see what I can do within the realm of my control. I'm not going to be able to do every little thing on the checklist. So what are the priorities? What are the things that are actually going to have the biggest impact on my students in the long run? And if if they got to tap me on the hand because I didn't do X, Y, and Z, that's fine. But I'm just like this sounds a little cocky, but I'm good at my job. Like, you're not gonna fire me.
No. Dr. Henley, I love to hear it, because there are a couple of things that you said that I'm hoping folks in the community heard as well. One, when you're good at your job, you're good at your job. Folks, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, the kids and the results that the kids produce are gonna show that. But two, what you mentioned about there's always going to be something else.
Always.
Like that checklist of like, I have lesson plans. Okay, I have to talk to communicate certain things to parents. Check. I got to meet with my admin about da 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 da. Check. I'm thinking about, all right, the next unit and what we're going to teach. How do I set it up? The misconception. Like, that list that a teacher has, whether physically or just mentally or both, of all the things he or she they have to do is just, it's continuously going. You knock one off, 2 more spread out. So recognizing that good is okay and that nothing is ever going to be perfect, I think is a great lesson to have sink into you. Was that something that you learned by yourself, or did an admin or a mentor help you with that?
A combination, like, because I give a lot of credit to, this is some of the only credit I give to my teacher ed program. I had a teacher the professor in that first, I think he was my first or second class. And one day he was like, look, if you need a day off, you take your day off. He's like, if you wake up in the morning, I don't care if it's 6:00 and your report time is 7. If you wake up and you say, and in your spirit that if you go to work today, you're going to mess up and say or do something you ain't got no business saying or doing, don't go.
Don't go.
It doesn't matter if you weren't sick. You are sick now. Take your day. And I was hard-headed at first. I didn't listen. But like I legit almost quit the October of my first year.
I could believe it.
Because I was trying to push through. I didn't realize I didn't have to grade every single thing I gave them. So I was just dying. And I got jury duty in that October. 3 days. And I reported to jury duty. I was there maybe 30 minutes and they sent me home all 3 days. So I had those 3 days to just sort of reorient and get my life together and like be like, okay, take a breath. Yeah. And without that time, I don't know that I would still be doing the job. And so like it was that advice, and then just realizing that, you know, if you don't if you don't take the break, your body will make you. Because, and I'm still bad about that. I do better at taking breaks now than I used to, but I'm still bad at not slowing down enough because I'm a busybody. But yeah, just realizing like either you can sit down for a day or you're going to be out for a week. And you're going to be out and miserable.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
Yeah, anybody got time for that? So we just going to go ahead and take our day. And if you want to be mad about it, you can be mad about it. Yeah. But would you rather a day or a week?
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. And it's interesting because I tell coworkers, and particularly the new teachers, October is that funky month. I call it Shocktober because the beginning of the year, kiddos are just like either like they're happy and they're showing out, whatever. But by October, you've set up a routine, and they are now familiar with who you are as a teacher, whether it's a new teacher or a recurring teacher, whatever. And Shocktober. Yep. October is when like, all right, we're just going to show you, are you really about this life or not? Are you really prepared or not? Have you set up systems for yourself so that you are able to continue rather than, you know, get bogged down? Because October is also that month where like there are no breaks.
Yeah. And there's just and it's like everything's due. Like parent teacher conferences is like in that time. You got progress report to do, or report cards, depending on how your system does it. Like it's just like there's deadline after deadline after deadline. Yeah. And not a whole lot of breaks. Yep. And yeah, it's a rough time.
And I like what you were saying about either you take that day or you take that week, or the week will be given to you. Like either you take this break or your body's gonna tell you, no, sit down. That right there is a word, because oh my, it can get rough. So I hope,
like, you know, growing up, it's like your mom would be like, either you can do it on your own, I'm gonna make you do it. You don't want her to make you. And it's the same thing. You don't want your body to make you do it, because it's not gonna be fun.
No. It's not. It really isn't. Listening to you, and you were fortunate enough to have a lot of educators who poured into you. I know we are asked this time, do you have a favorite student? Do you have a favorite teacher? Was there someone who you think of that comes to mind that, oh, you got a smile? So I think there is.
It's so hard because I truly had so many amazing teachers.
Okay.
Like from like my second grade teacher, Miss Frazier. When I was in her class, my great grandmother passed, and my granny I thought that lady was the bee's knees. She drank prune juice, so I drank prune juice. You know, like anything she did, I was like, I'm doing it too.
Got it.
And so I was devastated, and just the care that she showed for me during that time, and also the standard she held me to even amidst it, because I remember her making space for me to grieve, but also like being very clear that grief could not overtake me. And then like I got to middle school, Miss Wallace and Miss Derrick, they were my science and math teacher in 8th grade. Like those were some funny ladies. But Miss Derrick, I remember I ran into her during my first year teaching, and I ran into her at the grocery store, and she was telling me that she wasn't like, I was telling her rather that I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in the classroom. And she just was like, you know, you have to do 2 years. You don't know anything before just off 1 year. You don't know if you really like it or not. You don't know if you hate it. And like that was life changing. Like, because I was like, okay, I'll listen to you, I guess. Yeah. And now this will be the last one, even though there's a lot more, and I just don't want to. But my 10th grade English teacher, Miss Brierly, that lady, and I've told her multiple times, I think she's one of the biggest reasons why I decided to become a teacher. She's always had time for us, even like after we were out of her class. The school I was at had done a yearly trip for the 11th graders to Atlanta, an overnight trip, and they canceled it the year that I got to 11th grade. And we were like, well, no, that doesn't get to happen. We're going to have it. And so we went to her and we were like, would you sponsor this trip? And she was like, yeah. She's like, y'all have to do all the work behind it, but I'll file the paperwork. And just that now, like as a teacher looking back, I'm like, that lady had mad love for us because that was some work. But yeah, just made that space for us to be there and enjoy school and allow us to be in her space when she didn't have to.
Awesome. That's awesome. And then to think that you went on to get your doctorate, what exactly did you get your doctorate in?
Science education.
Science education. Like, what pushed you to want to do that? Why? Yeah, the simple question, but deep, profound question, the why.
So that's a funny story too, at least I think, because I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. I just was like, I don't know, it's more school. Like school, it's fine. Yeah. And I was like, I would like my paycheck to look better. And I was a second year teacher in Mississippi. I wasn't making a whole lot of money. So I had a master's because I did a master's of arts in teaching. It's like my alternate route program. Yep. And I was looking at a specialist degree, but I knew I wanted it to be specific to science ed because I would hear from my students all the time, well, Miss Henley, Black folks don't do that. Like when we would talk about stuff in science, like, I would talk about different jobs and different careers, and they would say that, and I would be like, bruh, yes, we do. And I was like, I feel like I'm doing what I've been taught to do, but I don't feel like it's hitting the way it's supposed to hit.
Right.
I don't feel like my students are getting what I'm trying to give them. And I want to know how to do this job better. I want to know like what the missing link is. And so like that was initially it's like, I'm going to go back to school. Like I want to get paid more. And also I'd like to know this thing. And I was looking at specialist degrees. And I didn't really see a whole lot in my area that fit into like the science education that I wanted to do. And I was sort of looking at online things, and I ran into one of my coworkers. She taught history and she was retiring that year. And I didn't see her very often because our classrooms are on different sides of the building. And I was very much I stay in my classroom and I shut my door and I do my job type of teacher. But I ran into her and she said, Henley, how old are you? And then she said, are you married? Do you have kids? And I was like, no, ma'am, I don't. And she said, well, then you need to go get your PhD because you don't have anybody you're responsible to but you. Go get it. Don't, like, she basically was like, why would you just do the specialist? You have the flexibility and freedom to move around because the only person you got to make sure eat is yourself. And I was like, well, you got a point.
I guess that adds up.
And it's like I applied, and like now that I've been in, like I've done the academic thing, and I've been like I was in the PhD program. I know like generally people like send emails, and, like get to know people and identify a potential mentor before they ever get there. I didn't do any of that. I just
just jump right in.
Yeah, and so I really feel like my journey has been ordained, like it's been meant to be, because it's very much been a series of, oh, I didn't know there was a way you were supposed to do it, but it worked out. And awesome. So that was what led me there.
Cool. Well, this is the selfish part of the conversation for me, because this is when I usually ask folks, is there a book or books that you would recommend that you have read or are reading that you're like, yo, this is just dope, more people need to know about this this author or authors.
Oh, okay. How much time do you have?
As much time as he wants,
I
sis.
I love reading. I love books. Like it's my
Excellent.
jam. I'm a big fantasy person. I just finished reading. Now this book isn't released yet. It was on NetGalley.
Mm-hmm.
That I read it. It's called The Poisons We Drink by Bethany Baptiste. It's fiction, but I really enjoyed it. It was a great book.
That's a dope
A
title.
friend of mine has.
No, I said that's a dope title, The Poison We Drink.
It's like that, and
Yeah.
the cover are what
Yeah.
got me to read it,
Okay.
and it did not disappoint.
Okay.
A friend of mine has a book coming out next year, Raven Stringfield, that's called Love Requires Chocolate. It's a young
Love.
adult romance. And then there's a book I'm really interested in that's coming out next year as well. I haven't read yet, but it's called Blood at the Root. And I want to say
Okay.
the author's name is Ladarian Williams.
Okay.
But he is a Black author and he frames it as like a magical HBCU. And so,
Ooh.
like I got to get
Ooh.
into it.
Yes. Give us the title one more time.
Blood at the Root.
Blood at the Root. Okay. Put that on the to get list in 2024. Okay.
Yeah. And then a very short read that I still felt like hit really hard and I really enjoyed was The Secret Lives of Church Ladies.
Okay.
And then If Beale Street Could Talk, that's a classic. It moved like that, and The Bluest Eye are, I feel like, are real formative for me and like just move me.
Did you see
And
the
then
movie for Beale Street? Beale
yeah,
Street?
and I
What'd you
boohooed
think?
in the theater. I boohooed. I went with a friend, and he was
Yeah.
looking at me like, "Girl, are you well?"
Oh man, the story
Full
number
on.
one, but I also thought the cinematography,
Oh yeah, it
just
was
the look was
excellent.
just beautiful. Yeah.
And
Yeah. My bad.
it's I want to rewatch it, but I'm kind of scared.
Yeah. You get that way too? Like, emotionally, I'm not prepared to. I know what's gonna happen,
Yes,
and still, yet it's
yes.
gonna bring it all up again.
I
Okay.
know I'm going to be sobbing, and I don't know if I
Yeah.
have the energy for that
Yeah.
today.
Right. Right. I got
Yes,
groceries to do later. I can't be
yes,
walking through
exactly. I got to
Kroger just
clean
like,
the house. I can't be here in
yeah.
shambles. But
Yep.
yeah, no, it was excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then more sciencey things, The Disordered Cosmos by Shonda Prescott Weinstein, and I really hope I pronounced her name correctly. But she's a Black Jewish physicist, and she talks about physics in the book, but she also talks a little bit about her personal journey. I loved it. It was a great read. I'm currently working through some two books that are about more like indigenous science.
Mm-hmm.
One is Fresh Banana Leaves, and the other is Braiding Sweetgrass. Yeah, Braiding Sweetgrass. Um, I try really hard to bring cultural examples of science into the classroom.
Yeah.
Because people have this idea of what science is and who does science
Mm-hmm.
that I think is really, really flawed.
Yep.
And so I have to read so I can back up these claims that I make.
I understand.
Then I have Teaching to Transgress, Bell Hooks, it's classic.
Anything Bell Hooks is gonna be a good read. Yeah.
Absolutely. Black, Brown, and Bruised by Ebony McGee. I'm missing part of her name, and I apologize to her if she ever happens to see this. But it is about the experiences of Black and Brown folks in STEM fields, and what STEM misses out of because of that. That I enjoy. And then yeah. I mean, I could probably list some more, but I'm gonna stop.
If I could ask you then, for your playlist, this could be top 5 songs at the moment, at least 5 artists, 5 albums. What would be on Dr. Henley's playlist? Knowing that this could change and this is fluid. If we ask you 3 weeks from now, that this could be something different, but at the moment, what would be on your playlist?
Okay, so I have a couple of mainstays, and they're kind of old. Well, yeah, kind of old. And all three artists that are from Mississippi.
Okay.
Because always
Gotta
gotta rep the
represent.
home team.
Yes.
So it's a song called "I Got It" by Dear Silas.
Okay, I got it.
Energy, Big Crit.
That's a good artist right there, Big Crit. Good.
I love him. And then my little brother, he raps occasionally. I don't know. But he one of his favorite songs of mine that I like to listen to regularly is called Up, and his name is Joe 2 Federal.
Joe 2 Federal. Okay.
But to me, all three of those songs are like song, like encouraging yourself type vibes,
Yep.
So I like to have like that on a playlist, kind of, no matter, like that type of vibe on a playlist regardless. Nice. And then I have Octavia by Jamila Woods, and On My Mama by Victoria Monet.
Oh my mama.
Yeah,
Oh my hood.
You gotta think you popping before anybody else can. So
real talk. Absolutely. I mean, Soldier Boy was saying, hop up out the bed.
Look, another Mississippi artist. Okay.
Take a look in the mirror and say, "What's up?"
Got to.
You got to be the first one. I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Henley. I'm hoping anyone who's listening to this picked up a couple of gems. I know for myself, just that reminder of, look, sit down. Every now and again, sit down. Either sit down for a day or sit down for a week.
Yeah.
You choose. And then
and
recognize
you can have fun on that day, but that week won't be.
Right. And you need that. And like you were just saying right now, in regards to taking care of yourself and hyping yourself up before anyone else, just know, as an educator, you are the prize.
Mm-hmm.
You are the prize. And for those who are contemplating after your first year whether or not this is a profession for you, I thought that advice that you were given is very sound. The first year of teaching, you're just looking to survive because it's awkward. You really don't know what you don't. There's so much that you don't know that you can't know what you don't know yet. I would say for me personally, it was by year 3, I was like, you know what? Now I think I know what it is that I'm doing. And then from there, I was able to grow. But yeah, after the first year, anyone who's looking to dip out after that first year, no shade and no tea to you. However, I would say, similar to what your mentor said to you, like, give yourself another year. Like the first year,
the advice I give people now.
Yeah,
I think it's excellent. My advice is always give it 2 years before you decide, and I apply that to a building as well.
Yeah,
just because that first year in a new building can be rough too.
Yep, you're just getting used to it. Cool. Thank you so much, Dr. Henley, for coming through.
Thank you for having
podcast me. And chatting it up. Really appreciate it. The book list, I'm probably going to reach out to you like, hey, what are the next 10 or 15, 20 books that you would recommend? Because I just think it's just awesome. An awesome list to compile. And I think particularly what you mentioned too about the representation of making sure that Indigenous folks who are in STEM, in that last book that you mentioned about the effects of the exclusion or the misrepresentation of it, is something that's huge. Being a person who's in math and you in science, I'm very well aware of.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of folks who look like us, both male and female. So to make sure that they get their moment to shine is super important. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this has been another great episode of the Chronicles of Mister. I'm Mr. Pierre. She's Dr. Henley. And we're out.